Hello, this is Karen back again with another story. Since we just passed St. Patrick's Day, I selected an Irish story to tell. This particular Irish story involves the fairies, or as they're sometimes known as the Fae, or the She, or the Fair Folk, or the Wee Folk. They go by lots and lots of names. And there are lots and lots of warnings about the fairies. You see, they aren't always nice, and you don't want to cross them. If you treat them well, they usually will treat you well. But if you try to make them do something they don't want to do, it's not going to go well. So, this particular story is about a young man named Lustmore. Now, Lustmore was born with a hump on his back, and it made him walk all bent over, and he had to walk slowly, and it made things tough for him. Now, even though he had a rough life, Lustmore was a great guy. He was always in a good mood. He was friendly. All his neighbors loved him. He was just an all round nice guy. And every morning Lustmore came out, and he'd go in the nearby meadow, and he'd pick one or two small flowers and stick them in his straw hat, and then he would go out to do his work. And his work was to go door to door, and he made baskets for people. And the people loved having Lustmore come because he was so friendly and so nice, and he made wonderful baskets. He would make them however you wanted them, and the people just loved having him nearby. They always paid him a little bit more than what he asked for his baskets because he was so good. Now, one night, Lustmore was coming back from a nearby town where he had been making baskets, and it was tiring because, as I said, he walked hunched over and it was slow going. So he decided to stop and take a rest. And there was a mound next to the road, and he stopped there and he sat down to relax. And after he sat there a while, he thought he heard music. He listened, and yes, he could hear voices singing. So he put his ear to the mound, and from inside he could hear little voices singing, Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday. So Lustmore sat there and he listened and he enjoyed the music. And then after a while, it got a little boring because they just kept singing the same thing over and over and over. But Lustmore sat patiently, and he listened and listened, and finally their song ended, and he added on, and Wednesday. Well, the next thing he knew, he was spinning around and sucked down into that mound, and he was in a whirlwind, and he landed on the floor, and he opened his eyes, and he was in a palace, a beautiful palace. And then all these fairies came running up to him, and they were laughing and running around and dancing. And then a larger fairy wearing a crown came up and said, Lustmore, Lustmore, that hump that you wore on your back is no more. Look down on the floor and see it, Lustmore. And Lustmore suddenly felt lighter, and he was able to straighten up, and he looked at the floor, and there was the hump from his back laying there. It was no longer on his back. Well, he didn't know what to think, and soon all the fairies started dancing in a circle around him. And they went around and around and around, and soon Lustmore was dizzy, and he faints. Well, the next morning, he wakes up, and it's daylight, and he's still laying on the mound. And he sits up, and he realizes the hump is gone. It wasn't a dream. The hump was no longer there. And not only that, he was wearing a full outfit of new clothes. Well, he was amazed and he was happy, and he skipped his way home, dancing and laughing and spinning around and leaping. And when he got close to the town, his neighbors almost didn't recognize him because he didn't have his hump, and he was all dressed up, and they were amazed at what they were seeing. So he lived the rest of his life humpless and still a nice guy, and he still made his baskets. But in the next town, there was another guy by the name of Jack Madden. Jack Madden was also born with a hump, but he also had a very, very bad temper. He was just unpleasant to be around. He'd snarl and growl at people and snap at them. If they got too close, he'd pinch them or smack them. And nobody wanted to be around Jack Madden. But eventually the story of Lustmore made it to the town, and Jack Madden thought, I'm going to go visit those fairies, and I'll get them to get rid of my hump. So Jack Madden walked his way down the road until he came to that fairy mound. And he sat down on it, and he waited to hear the music. And the music started, and he heard the fairies going, Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, and so on and so on. So he hears them singing this song, and when they get to and Wednesday, he butts in with and Thursday and Friday. Well, the next thing you know, he'd been sucked down in through the mound and landed on the floor of the palace. And all the fairies were charging at him, saying, You spoiled our song! You spoiled our song! You spoiled our song! And he's sitting there and he doesn't know what to think. And then the larger fairy with the crown says, Jack Madden, you're such a bad 'un. Your life we will sadden with 2 humps for Jack Madden. And sure enough, here come the fairies carrying Lustmore's hump, and they stick it to Jack Madden's back. And it's stuck there, just like if he was born with it. So now Jack Madden has 2 humps. And the fairies send him back out, and he has to live the rest of his life with the 2 humps. And that is the story of why you should be very careful when dealing with fairies. The end.